You there? Hello? You can hear me, Puni?
ಕೊಡಿ ಸರ್ ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಸಾಟರ್ಡೆ ಯಾರು ಎತ್ತೋಗ್ತಿ ನೀನೇ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ತಗೋಬೋ ಅಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಅಯ್ಯೋ ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ ಇಲ್ವಲ್ಲ ಗ್ಲುಕೋಮೀಟ್ರು.
ಇಲ್ವಾ? ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಮೆಡಿಕಲ್ ರೆಪ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂದ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೇನೋ ಅಂತ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ ಸರ್.
ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಯಾಕೆ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ?
ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ನೈಟ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ.
ಹೌದಾ?
Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to you all. I'm sure everyone is so keen have joined in early. I welcome Dr. Usha Vastare and all the audience, enthusiastic audience from different walks of life. Yes, I think we can we begin the webinar, Dr. Usha Vastare?
Certainly.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
ready. Yeah.
Yeah. With the permission, we'll just go ahead. I'll just introduce a few things about the topic and the speaker herself. And today's topic is very unique for the reason being this is very close to myself and Dr. Usha Vastare's work. And Dr. Usha Vastare is a neuroscientist who has worked in US for more than over 3 decades in the university and in the research labs, and bringing out very unique concepts in neuroscience which can be not only be explored for many more years to go. So that is the amount of scientific research that has been done when she was there, and that is how we are able to utilize our experience, and we are in a gain situation now. And I would say that with her visit and comeback to India, there has been the dawn of the emotional support that has she has brought to the number of groups. That is, I would say, it is a heterogeneous group of people. You will understand this better when she runs through her presentation. This is because she has been trying to cover not only the educated mass, so there the more number of villagers and with different educational background. They're from destitutes, they're orphans, they're students, they're professionals, so many groups, and it is a very tough job because I myself know running a single group meeting is such a difficult thing. We will see how nicely and with her good experience she has done. And through this campaign of support group meeting from Yogakshema, today will be a witness of her rich experience from USA as well as from India. And each group has been support group meeting was conducted in a different format, and this format is again a different, and we have chosen this name as therapeutic support groups, keeping in mind to see how this support group meetings can act as a therapy. We welcome you, madam, and
Thank you.
thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being and joining us. We can begin the session now. So I think the session is more of interactive way of doing it. Anyone willing to ask questions can put up in a chat box, or the end of the session they'll be allowed to speak on their own. Yes, madam, we can begin.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Puneet. As Puneet said, this is really very close to my heart, and then you will see why. Because both in US and in India, support groups are looked at as just peer support groups, as though they are similar to self-help groups. But it is in 1970s or so, Dr. Dean Ornish, the amount of research he did during those 2 decades, 1970s to 1990s, he elevated the position of support groups to a totally different level, making it as so therapeutic. I just like to read out his statement before I start, and then I'll let you know how I'm going to go through the next half hour or so, the flow of my didactic. And the last half hour or so, we will focus for question and answers. This is what Dr. Dean Ornish says in his book, Reversing Heart Disease. Quote, At first, I viewed our support groups simply as a way to motivate patients to stay on the other aspects of the program that I considered most important, like the diet, exercise, stress management training, and to stop smoking, and so on and so forth. Over time, I began to realize that the group support itself was one of the most powerful interventions. This is where actually I got the impetus. Of course, he worked with a specialized group of people, and even now he runs an institute wherein he says it is lifestyle medicine. He's using his program to help people make lifestyle changes, wherein he still uses these support groups as a therapy in itself. And then you will see as I go along how we at Yogakshema in the past 15 years literally have covered hundreds, close to 1,000 support group meetings of both homogeneous and heterogeneous groups of people. And we have not restricted just to help improve the quality of lives of people with certain illnesses, but from various different angles. We will see that as I end this didactic. Let me start sharing the presentation and then you would get an idea. So as I said, what I would like to do is to first let us understand what a classic or conventional support group is all about. And you will see the definition of that is available easily on the internet. What is the classic definition of a conventional support group? And then I will build a case to show you through our experience how we are going to look at the support group itself. And then I will end today's talk with the definition that we have come up with at Yogakshema. And then you will see the vastness of it and how it becomes all inclusive too. Classic support group definition is given like this. A support group provides an opportunity for people to share their personal experiences and their feelings and emotions and their coping strategies or first-hand information about diseases or treatments. This is how in US support groups started. As you can see, it's very similar to self-help groups, what we call as SHGs. That's how some of any kind of support group also started in the West. However, when we use this classic support group theme, when we worked with people with Parkinson's and their caregivers, as I worked with them during a clinical trial, we took it to a different level. And based on that experience, how Yogakshema itself has looked at support groups in such a vast perspective, that is what we're going to experience today. So support group, SGM actually stands for support group meeting. These are some of the characteristics of a classic and conventional support group. What is it? The identification of people with certain illnesses, if it's a homogeneous group. Or it could be for some cause, either for weight reduction or getting over certain addictions, either could be smoking or drinking or whatever it may be, or even for that matter, social media addiction. So whenever people come together, they feel that they belong to that group and they can be identified with that group because they understand others also in that group are going through similar challenges like them. So that's the most important aspect of any support group, and that they get. And they also get guidance from their peer level. And catharsis, what is catharsis? They pour out their emotions and feelings about how tough, whatever it may be that they are going through. That catharsis itself truly helps them. That is why many people keep coming back, because once they pour out their challenges and their problems, what they are going through in their lives, based on what, whether it is an illness or any kind of addiction that they're going through, that itself truly helps them, but it is only on a momentary basis until the next support group meeting. So much so, many a times, there is kind of a dependency on this support group. I want you to keep this in mind. In a classic conventional support group, without their knowledge, there is kind of dependency with other peers. That's mainly because of their identification and belongingness to this group, because they feel that they are being understood. And they also learn, as I said earlier, peer learning, interpersonal learning. And there is hope. Somewhere, at least some people will be positive in that group, and many different people are at different stages in their illnesses. So there is somehow or other, there is some hope that is instilled, and they carry that back with them. So this is still both the first slide and this, we are still at the conventional support group system level. How do they get guidance at the peer level? We've gone through all the others remaining the same. They compare themselves and they exchange how they are facing the illness, how they are coping with their illnesses, and what type of lifestyle changes that they are making. And they also compare notes between themselves about the illness, what stage it is in, what other things that they are trying, everything at a peer level. And the interpersonal level, again, learning is again only from each other. This is where, again, all the conventional support group systems carry on. From here, you're going to see how Yogakshema has taken the same characteristics of a classic, conventional support group and how it has built, and then we will see how it has made changes in the lives of people. With respect to guidance, whereas it is just with their peer group, Yogakshema brought in many other experts either in that field or whatever the group needed at that time. They probably needed to help make them better lifestyle changes. So depending on that, we either brought expertise or using that as a theme, we help them learn more of lifestyle changes, customizing the lifestyle changes for that particular group or even on an individual basis. And not only that, not only talking about the illness, whether it is with disease, symptoms of the illness, or what they can look forward to in the future, what is it that they need to accept, what is it that they need to resist with respect to the symptoms of the illness, all of that was brought in at a deeper level. And not only that, what are the research advances that were happening in that particular field was also brought into them, so that they started gaining more knowledge about the illness itself, which truly helped them to know about their own illness or whatever they were going through from many different angles, not just from the angle of being a victim. Because many a times in classic support groups, when the participants come, they come with the victim mode. And if that support group is run by another peer member, many times it is hard to come out of that victim mode of being caught up in the illness. So here I would like to pinpoint the facilitator is the most important person to help build all of these characteristics of the support group. And not only that, how they can go beyond catharsis and going beyond hope, and how ultimately it actually changes. And many times I've heard people share their opinion to such an extent, saying that whatever I'm going through, it has truly now become a blessing, because I was able to learn so much and make so many lifestyle changes I would not have been able to do otherwise. So again, with respect to interpersonal learning, it's not just at a peer learning, we make them understand about themselves, why they are the way they are, how does their mind work. They all know what they should be doing and what they should not be doing. But yet it is so tough to hold on to some of the good habits. And it's so tough to get rid of the old unwanted habits. Why is it happening for them? They start understanding. That is what I mean by self-understanding. Without bringing any moral issues, without pinpointing that it is a mistake that they are doing, it is all trying to help them understand about themselves. To such an extent, they even understand about their own primary caregiver. Because until then, they were looking at the caregiver only from the perspective of somebody who has to take care of them, that they have become dependent of them, on the family members. So only at that level they would be thinking about. But not only that, we also included caregivers along with the people with chronic illnesses. As far as I know, as far as I can tell, with the best of my knowledge, Yogakshema was the very first organizations to include caregivers along with the people who were going through certain chronic illnesses as a part of non-pharmacological treatment itself. And not only that, they started understanding more about their family, what the family was going through, and how to utilize their friends in helping to cure and heal themselves. And also they started understanding how to work with the healthcare professional, could be doctor, could be a physiotherapist, a speech therapist, whatever it may be, how to develop that rapport with that healthcare professional. Because many a times, with especially patients with chronic illnesses, it is not just a one-time visit going to a doctor or going to the hospital or going to a therapist. They need to bond with the healthcare worker, starting with the doctor, and they need to build a rapport on a long-term basis to be able to partner with them, so that they themselves could help the healthcare professional to help them heal. In other words, we also made them understand what is the difference between an acute disease and a chronic illness, and what is the difference between curing a disease and healing of an illness. The more and more they learned in a very scientific, structured, logical manner about themselves, about their family, how to utilize their friends in their healing process, and how to truly build that relationship, which was so important, because especially people with certain chronic illnesses, we see that they become so much paying attention on themselves. I don't want to call it as being selfish. It's not that they are selfish, but it is self-wallowing. There is a difference between being selfish and self-wallowing, only thinking about themselves all the time and not even be aware of how their illness has affected the rest of the family, their own, with the rest of the friends, with their colleagues, whatnot, because it becomes truly hard for them to come out of it, especially if that illness starts on a very quick manner, rather than on a slow pace manner. So this interpersonal learning, starting with their own understanding of themselves, why is it they lose their cool, with the primary caregiver who's taking care of them in such a loving manner, or with everything that the primary caregiver is going through, juggling with many a times the primary caregiver now working outside the home to make the end meets and coming back home and taking care of the family member. All of this, I'm just generalizing. It all depends on the type of illness, what stage the person is in that illness, but I'm taking to an extreme to help us understand. And not only that, they also see what hope means. That what I mean by beyond hope is, earlier the definition of hope for the patients would be, and also for their caregivers would be, the first question they would ask, when am I going back to my original way of being, my original way of dealing with everything in life? When will I be able to do such and such a thing like before? If I can go back to my previous days, that is what is hopeful for them. This is what I understood from the patients 15 years back, when we started working with many of the chronic ill patients. So we made them help to understand what true hope means. Hope does not always mean going back to their original ways of being. We made them understood that hope means much more than going back to their original ways. So much so, if I have to just say some of the things what they have told me rather than in my words, they said, you know, yes, I still am living with some of the limitations because of this illness. Yes, maybe it is some physical limitations, but my relationship with my family members, my relationship with my colleagues or with my friends has improved so much. I don't even mind some of the limitations, physical limitations I might have, some of the maybe some financial limitations I might have. I have truly become a better person. These are the words of the people who truly went through Yogakshema's support groups. So they started looking at hope from a totally different perspective, from a totally different angle. So there was a shift that happened with them once they start attending such meetings. As you can see, we started out with white and gray, whatever colors that you're seeing, that is how Yogakshema's support groups have evolved on the foundation of classic and conventional support group meetings. Now, as went along, the people themselves, the patients or the caregivers, they themselves became ambassadors to keep such support groups moving, to roll along, because they got benefited so much just by word of mouth. We didn't have any other way of letting people know that we even conduct such meetings, because when we started Yogakshema 15 years back, it was such a small organization. Even if I think back, even I wonder how it has grown so much only because of word of mouth. And especially the first few years when we dealt with people with chronic illnesses, including their primary caregivers, and customizing each group, each meeting based on what they really wanted. That was what was so unique about Yogakshema's support groups. So they became ambassadors, went back to their doctors, went back to their friends and family members, and they brought them back. And starting with catharsis, which of course it helps, we all know this, although it is for a very short time. Starting from catharsis, they started seeing that there is future for them, and that future is better than what it was before they started attending the support groups. And they also learned that they are able to create the future as they would like it to be. And all of this, I'm just talking as though as a didactic, but all of this was done in a highly structured, organized way. And also the true interpersonal learning, which started with understanding about themselves, understanding about other family members, and the relationship that they had to build with the doctor and with other healthcare workers, truly helped them to heal themselves, because they truly understood the difference between cure and healing of an illness. And all of this led to searching for themselves for larger meaning, rather than just focusing just on their symptoms, just on the illness, just on whatever that they were going through at that moment. They started learning and figuring out the meaning and larger purpose of life. That was truly, truly amazing. So how did that happen? The interpersonal learning, apart from learning how to heal themselves, they also learned the importance of interpersonal relationships. That's what I mean by IPR. We truly made them understand the importance of both health and relationships within the family, with friends, with colleagues, and with the society. Because, this is something very, very deep. Even though we know, once you hear this, yes, it makes perfect sense, but yet we forget this when we are in the middle of what we are going through, when we are really going through at the crux of an illness, whatever the family is going through, we forget the importance of our relationships. Because health, for most of us, if not for all of us, only a few people who are lucky, they can just leave this body like that. That's very, very small percentage of people. Otherwise, in this day and age, how we are taking care of ourselves and how the longevity has increased so much, we are living for such longer time periods with certain health conditions, without any doubt. We will face certain health conditions, especially as we grow older. But in spite of certain illness, if we have meaningful, purposeful, loving, and functional relationships with our loved ones, that is what helps us to go through and face anything in life. Whereas even youngsters might be hale and healthy and they can be in the peak of their health. But if they do not have meaningful relationship with their own parents, with their own spouses, with their own children, with their own siblings, they will not be able to enjoy that health, nor will they able to enjoy the life itself. So this is one of the most important aspects that Yogakshema brings in to compare and contrast between health and interpersonal relationships. Once the focus gets shifted from focusing just on the symptoms of the illness to the relationships within the house with the primary caregiver and with other family members, truly magic happens. So as you can see how, except for that identification and belongingness, that is one of the common things even with our support groups as well as conventional support groups. Whereas everything else, we truly, through the experience we gained over a period of time, and also through the advances in neuroscience research, and also because of the experience both in the Western society and in this country, bringing all of them together, we were able to truly touch people's lives and truly help them heal and ultimately help them figure out the very meaning and purpose of life. Whenever I bring this up, meaning and purpose of life, I always have to make this a point to say this again and again, because for anybody, as soon as we hear the purpose of life, meaning of life, we think about philosophy. Oh, she's now talking about some philosophical issues. This is where I'm going to make this a point and stress this again and again, even though I'm using such terms wherein it was used only from a philosophical perspective. But the newest science in newest field in neuroscience called positive psychology has brought this issue up, figuring out meaning and purpose of life. That's a topic in itself separately, but I just want to touch upon that to make you understand that all of this is done in a highly scientific structured manner. Why do I keep saying scientific? The only reason I keep saying that it is scientific, it is only because it is common for everybody. Science is all about commonality and reproducibility. Because if it is from just a philosophical perspective, if two groups don't agree with the same philosophy, things won't work. Whereas with science, it is common for everybody. And if we follow in a certain way, it is reproducible. That is why I keep on mentioning again and again that it is highly scientific. On all of that learning that happened, well, without that knowledge and without us telling them this is what we are doing, they truly developed a growth mindset. That is the hallmark of truly learning at any age, at any stage in our life. Even when somebody is bedridden, even if it is last few breaths of our life, as long as we have a growth mindset, we can be learning and we can be developing certain zest for life, even when somebody is on the deathbed. So I would like to, last couple of slides, I would like to bring in some of the unique aspects of thematic and therapeutic support groups of Yogakshema, that it's highly customized for each group. And for the first time, as I said, as we knew, caregivers were included in such groups. and we helped them to find new meaning for hope, and they understood the healing power that was within themselves. That is why the support groups were empowering. We didn't make them depend on us. They kept coming back, not because of dependency, but because they kept learning something new, and they would go back and put that into practice. And ultimately that led to zest for life. All of this, as I said earlier, happened through growth mindset, and we gave them many of the neuroscientific tools as we went along. All of this was based on Yogakshema's principles. And here, I like to use this word which we have coined in Yogakshema called spirit science. And these are some of the Yogakshema's principles that we used while running such support groups, which is pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. We went through in deeper ways while we did this. And to understand that path itself should be the goal, or the journey should be the destination. We should not be happy or more hopeful once we reach a stage. As we are working on going towards the goal, overcoming some of the symptoms of the disease, as long as we are enjoying and focusing in the most positive manner, that is where the path becomes the goal. And importance and significance of interpersonal relationships, which I already mentioned. And then we made them understand this true concept about being independent and what does dependency mean, and that there is a higher order than even being independent, which is that interdependency on each other. This is not looked at from a negative perspective, but from the most positive perspective. We brought in even not just neuroscience, but some of the quantum physics concepts to help them to make it into very, very simple ideas. Sometimes, as Puneet said, we use the format of through storytelling, such high, deep concepts, either about neuroscience or quantum physics concepts, were brought about so that they could easily grasp and understand. And ultimately, we give them many rewiring tools, starting with the most important one, developing an attitude of gratitude. And then we have Yogakshema has come up with journals to show this attitude, or to develop this attitude of gratitude. That's again about the neuroscientific tools or rewiring tools of the brain. That's another topic in itself. I'm just showing the very tip of the iceberg. Each one of these we can, any one of the faculty at Yogakshema, and there are many faculty here who are present today also, each one of the faculty member here can talk about each of these principles for hours together. That is the kind of experience. I'm just talking about this as a representative of the organization, but all our faculty members have thorough, not just understanding, and also experiential wisdom about each of these Yogakshema's principles. So with this, how did it help? There was renewed hope in each of the member of the support group, building up with zest for life. So that renewed hope, the very definition of hope itself was changed for them, that led to truly zest for life in spite of having that illness, in spite of going through many challenges in their life. they were able to develop zest for life. And if we have time during the question and answer session, I will share a couple of the things that earlier as couples, when they attended, what they said and what they learned through this. When I tell this in their stories, when I share, you will be able to appreciate rather than as just as the didactic. The most important rewiring tool is this serenity prayer that we start about. And just understanding this prayer, I say this prayer is highly neuroscientific, because to understand what is it that we can change and what is it that we cannot change, either within ourselves or with others, and to know the difference between the two and completely comprehend and follow this. Many a times they understood how they were resisting the things that they were able to change themselves, they would let go. And what is it that they cannot change, they kept on trying to change within themselves, wherein it would have been impossible for them. That is why they would get into deep frustration once we make them understand from a cognitive perspective what is it that they can change. Again, this is highly illness specific based also. And I'm not just talking about illness. You will see it could be on any aspect, which we will see later. This is one of the most important rewiring tool that we use. This is a foundation tool that we use and build up all other rewiring tools of the brain based on this foundational tool. So this is the classic definition that I gave to you, that you can find this on internet. What is it? I'll read and then I will show you what the definition of support group, what Yogakshema has come up with based on their own experience in the past 15 years. A classic support group provides an opportunity for people to share personal experiences and feelings, coping strategies, or first-hand information about their own disease or their treatments. This mostly at a peer level, whereas the definition based on our experience, past 15 years of experience in this country, what is it? A support group of Yogakshema provides an opportunity for people to make a paradigm shift in the way they are looking at life, instilling hope and zest for life, to heal themselves by figuring out meaning and purpose of life through developing a growth mindset. I know this is truly heavy, but this is the most concise and best way which I can give for this intellectual growth. Of course, if we have to talk about this for people or for patients, for other groups, it might be different. For this particular group, I did not even want to make it any simpler than this. This is the definition that Yogakshema has come up with. What does it do after all of this? Two things. One, it truly empowers them and also improves their quality of life. So with this, I'm going to end the talk, and the next slide, I'm going to just leave it on because it will show you and give you an idea about various types of homogeneous and heterogeneous groups, the thematic groups that we have worked on, wherein you will be able to see it is not just with diseases and illnesses that we have worked on, and it's not just in one particular setting, in many different settings, and we have even worked with, this is what I want to focus on, with teenagers and their mothers, and teachers at various different schools, women at various Mahila Sanghas, and even at the corporate level, mid-management level, and how to even help them to do goal setting. So even the themes are varied. So we at Yogakshema has taken this thematic therapeutic support group to a, a totally different level, dealing with many different themes. And this is just what we have done. And I have to thank Dr. Puneet, because he wanted me to speak on this topic itself, which has actually, Puneet, I have to tell you, it has given me many, many more ideas than what we have dealt with until now at Yogakshema. With this, I'm going to stop and open up the floor for question and answer. Thank you.
Yes, we have come to the end of the session where we can interact with the speaker directly. Anyone having a question, either in Kannada or English, can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question. You can use the chat facility to ask the same.
Can
Yes,
I, Dr.
yes, please go ahead,
Sure.
madam.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Doctor, for such an illuminating talk. And how can single women healing from painful grief and loss, I mean, what kind of support group do you have at the moment to handle those kinds of complex emotions where they're struggling to deal with that irreparable void within their lives?
It's a really sensitive, important issue, especially in this day and age. We don't have anything running like the usual notion that we have. The support groups, they keep on running various different themes. But now that is how we started off. But now, based on all the experience, for any theme for that matter, including what you have suggested, we come up with a certain curriculum based on the challenges that they are facing. It could be anywhere from 5 to 6 sessions to 10 sessions or 20 sessions, wherein, for example, for such women, it has to be two things. One, they need to forgive themselves and forgive others. And they need to learn to manage their emotions, because the first thing is about the anger management. And anger, it can be represented either in the fistful type of anger or the quiet type, feeling sad and depressed. So emotion management and forgiveness, these are the two main things that come right away on the top of my head. But if we have a theme, we will be able to build structure and curriculum specifically customizing for particular groups like this. And if people are interested, and we have, I think, both other faculty of Yogakshema and trustees of Yogakshema too, Basant Jaju, Samit, and Ramesh, you can also talk to them, and we will be able to build curriculum to be able to help such groups. And not only that, Yogakshema is also interested in training. Only one person can only do so much. We're also interested in training other people, professionals, to be able to help them conduct or facilitate such meetings in the future. For any of those, we have other faculty of Yogakshema. As I mentioned earlier, I'm seeing some of the names here. Vasant Jaju, I think Ramesh, Samit, and even Rakhal, because with Rakhal, we were just before this, we were talking about his, again, one of the key people, core group member of Yogakshema. His interest was in looking at social media addiction with teenagers and youngsters. The talk that was given at a national youth workshop just last month, on social media addiction. Since that day, he's been discussing this, having a support group to be able to overcome certain of these addictions. So honestly, the scope for this is immense. And again, because our other faculty also is here with Yogakshema, I'm going to take this platform again to talk even to our own group, saying that we truly have not tapped. When I say we, I'm not just talking about we as Indians or we at Yogakshema, we as humanity, I'm talking about whether it is in US or here. We have not understood the power of the support groups, the power of relationships in anybody's lives, and to be able to develop a growth mindset and to be learning. In other words, if I just have to put it in one sentence, whether it could be our illness, or it could be anything personally that we are going through to get rid of an old unwanted habit. All of this, if I have to say it in one sentence, whatever limitations that we are going through, or it could be a weakness because of an illness, we at Yogakshema, the way we conduct and customize and come up with a curriculum for any of these specific groups, we help them convert their weaknesses into strengths. Ultimately, whether you look at it from a scientific perspective, if anybody is interested in a spiritual perspective, I can truly take a totally different angle, and I make a case with this statement: converting our weaknesses into strengths, so that we can develop zest for life until our last breath. It is possible. This only humans have this capability to be able to do this. And we might be physically totally dependent on others, but other type of interdependency, like how we can help others to bring their emotions up, by the way, as a patient, bedridden, even though on the deathbed, we can train them to be able to focus on their quality of life by improving the quality of mind until their last breath. That is how much scope we have with this type of Yogakshema's way of conducting support groups.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much.
Any other question? You can unmute yourself and then ask.
Ma'am, it was really excellent presentation, ma'am. Each and every word which you said, I'm Dr. Linga, each and every word which you said, is it's just so informative. And one which I found very important was the interpersonal relationship, trying to build the interpersonal relationship. I was just wondering, ma'am, because you said about teenage pregnancy in your support group, whether for teenagers in the current scenario, as they're entering into college, mainly the adolescent stage as well, whether they have, it is important that they have a support group, because if they're being bullied or ragged, their self-esteem comes down. So, I think support group would help, to sort of interact. What is your thoughts on it, ma'am?
Yeah, again, such a great question, because just I think last week, I don't know if Dr. Bhagyalakshmi is among the participants here. Dr. Bhagyalakshmi, if you're there, just raise your hand, because I was giving a talk at RV Dental College for the students and also for the faculty, some of the faculty. And as we speak, through Dr. Bhagyalakshmi, we're trying to come up with, because it is from their request, it was a request from the principal and other faculty, is exactly what we are trying to come up with. Rather than just doing counseling when they get into issues, when they get into challenges, this is a beautiful way of learning about themselves in a most positive way. So right from the beginning, they will be able to know where they need to focus, how they need to focus. So this is again making a shift in the way they are looking at it, rather than dealing with issues. It's not just in one particular college, or it could be with the clinics, with hospitals, being proactive rather than waiting for something to happen. Now, this is what truly at a very high meta level, because of the advances in neuroscience research that has happened throughout the world, that shift has already happened. And we see that in Western countries more and more. But for some reason, we are a little bit slower in picking it up, which is fine. It's as long as the people who believe in, who have that patience and that faith in the power of this, it is going to happen. And especially if that such a question has raised, may I ask you, what is your role here? Are you a healthcare worker?
I'm a doctor, ma'am. I used to work in UK.
A physician. Great.
Yes, and I'm an intensivist. I used to work in UK for nearly 10 years, and I have a little kid as well. But I just felt that, at times, because I interact with college students in the hospital where I work as well, at times, especially when they are leaving home and have to stay in hostel, and coming from different backgrounds, it is important that they are able to voice it out. It is not done so much as we would wish and hope for here in our country. So that's why I was asking your opinion on it.
Absolutely. It's truly a great question, because many a times, especially youngsters, do not know what they should copy from other countries. Unfortunately, many a times we copy the wrong things, because it's much easier to handle in that way, because of more than 3 decades I've spent in that country. Whatever I saw 30 years back, 40 years back in US, I see that happening both with youngsters, not just with the teenagers and youngsters, even with adults, people who are in their 30s, 40s, and parental generation, grandparental generation. To give you an example, Dr. Linga Devi, right? We have done a workshop on mindful parenting. You can see my age when I deal with other people who are grandparents. I'm thinking about doing mindful grandparenting workshop, because as much as parenting workshop is needed, we need to understand what this grandparenthood is all about. And so rather than like having the workshops and whatnot, this type of format, whether it is for illness or any type of social cause, any type of personal issues that we are trying to better ourselves. And if we can look at any issue in the form of learning, then it is not about, oh, there is something that is wrong, so I need to get some help. So that is the we are trying to come out. Yogakshema is helping people to come out of that mode of thinking. I go to a counselor because there is some problem. This is not counseling, not even group therapy, not even group counseling. For lack of better word, I just keep using support group. It is not at all counseling. That is what people should say. However, it is based on certain of the principles, because the way we started this, the way we conduct such support groups are based on National Stroke Association of USA. their ground rules and their regulations, whatever they have, and we have modified that into our culture. And I did that is through an official way. Before coming here to this country, I had taken an official okay from them to be able to use their format, because this is what I was using back in US, apart from doing other things with stroke patients and Parkinson's patients. And it worked so well, but I have adapted and modified to our culture. Because no matter what, in our culture, quote unquote, that religion is within our blood. However, we don't get into the religious aspect. That is why I use the word spirit science beyond religion. We will use, depending on who they are, we use Sufism quotes. It could be Catholic Christian codes. It could be Presbyterian Christian codes. It could be Madhvacharya codes or Kabir codes. It doesn't matter. We don't want to hold on to one angle, and that is again what makes it, will make it unique, because we don't know what will attract who, which angle. For youngsters, their codes from other corporate giants, for that matter. So depending on who they are, we try to, because our faculty at Yogakshema, they have such varied experience, and we come from various different fields. We have wealth of experience and wisdom from as part of this organization. So we can actually deal with from people at the CEO level, because we have people who have had that experience and gone beyond that. There are students also in our organization who have taken a lead role, and everybody in between. So we have such wealth of wisdom in the organization, which makes it really interesting. So I'm just one voice of that organization, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as a doctor, because you said, I also want to say, people have their own practices. And of course, this is true even in hospitals, but instead of hospitals, I will take as private physicians, so much ideas, even when the physicians in your own clinic, to make your patients come back to yourself. This is the best way of helping them, because no matter what, when you're seeing a patient, you won't be able to educate them. You can only give it as a prescription. Do walking, do exercise, cut down on sugar, cut down on salt. That is only a prescription, that's all. That they also know. You can get it on internet. How to make them get into those positive habits. That's only, I feel, by experience I'm saying, not just as a few years of experience in US, with several years of experience in this culture. I see it's also a great economic model for physicians, is what I'm trying to bring at.
Thank you so much.
May I introduce some of our faculty if you don't have any questions?
Yes,
Ramesh, can you, and Samit there. Ramesh is our president, if you can just there. Ramesh is our president of Yogakshema. Person Jaju, he's the director of wellness aspect of Yogakshema. He's the one who put in here anything connected with this. These are the people. And then how about Samit? Samit, is he still here? I saw him earlier. Maybe he left during the question and answer session. Samit is also here. He's again one of our trustees. And Rakha. Rakhal is there. Yeah. He's one of our younger members. His interest is with social media addictions and other things related to youngsters. He can understand them much more, which we are far away from those youngsters. So, anybody from our group? I don't see. Ramesh, do you see anybody else from ours? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I can see Pushpa.
Pushpa, yeah, Pushpa Vellal. Oh, she's been part of the support group meeting. In her school, we conducted support group meetings for, I think, is it probably more than close to 2 years or so. This is with respect to teachers at their respective school. They have 90 teachers in their school. Pushpa Vellal, yeah. And Pushpa Rao, who has attended many of the women's support group meetings. Pushpa, if you're around, there, Pushpa Vellal, yeah. In her school where she was a part of, is it 2 years, Pushpa, that we conducted the, yeah. You have to unmute yourself, Pushpa. You have to unmute yourself. Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes.
So I was actually just about to ask you, what kind of support group systems can be given to teachers? Because yes, I work with a group of teachers. Like I work in a school. We've always worked towards sensitizing them towards teenage, how to handle that phase and how to get along with them and how to change their way of teaching. So what kind of actual help that is given from the organization to teachers?
Yeah, what we do is first we get the information, the challenges that teachers are going through. See, I keep saying scientific only because it is common, right? The neuroscientific concepts are only so many, whether you use them with the teachers or with the patients or with the caregivers, it wouldn't matter. The neuroscience concepts are the same. Depending on the challenges that they're going through, we customize. If Pushpa can share how she, yeah,
Yes,
Pushpa,
I
she
can
used to
take
be
this.
the principal of a school where we were involved with for a couple of years. If you can share, Pushpa, how your
Definitely.
teachers were helped. Yeah.
Yes, see, at the helm of the school affairs, I realized that there was a lot of emotional baggage that the teachers were carrying up and down. So whatever happens at home, they used to come and throw it out on the children. Whatever happens in school, they used to take it back at home. So there was a lot of problems that were occurring on, and they were not happy, I felt. So this is where ma'am stepped in, and then 2 years was a complete change that occurred. And I am witness here for my own personal growth. So I am a testimony. I actually give you an hour regarding how many changes have occurred myself. So the teachers are really grateful. So I think this continued support will help them, deal with a lot of their emotional baggage and help them deliver the lessons. And they're going to have a more softer approach when it comes to dealing with these emotional issues when it comes to children. So teenagers, especially, they're handling, and very small children. And very often these teachers have toddlers at home, so they're not able to deal with the stress at home and teaching the very small children in nursery here at various age groups in different ways it is. And when I worked very closely with Usha Vasthera ma'am, I used to give her the requirements on a weekly basis. So we used to have close discussions regarding what exactly we need, and then based on this we took the whole program forward. And we have a list of what all we have done for 2 years. Actually 2 years is a very long time, and the teachers have benefited so much. In fact, when yesterday I was telling ma'am one of the success stories, how one of the teachers, she had panic attacks, and she ended up having a stroke in school. And she was actually handheld and brought out of that situation that she was in. And today she's a very happy teacher, going to get married, and she was remembering ma'am and she wanted to reach out to ma'am. Okay. So I think it at all levels it works. And I think Pam is doing a fantastic job along with all the Yoga Kshema members. I can see Ramesh there, yeah, even Dr. Puneet, all of them. So I think thank you so much. I think you're making a world of difference for people like us, and we are really happy to be a part of it. Else you would like me to share, ma'am?
No, that should be fine. Thank you, Pushpa.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And again, I don't know if Dr. Linga Devi is around. Dr. Puneet is also part of Yoga Kshema. Now, that's why I'm trying to motivate youngsters, other doctors like him, to be able to take it to the next level. And because the power of support groups, honestly, we have not understood, even in West for that matter, we have not understood at all. Because as I was working in a nationally coordinated clinical project in US, I wanted to start something just for the caregivers. And you know how tough it is in US. I needed to write grants and get approval from all different levels. So that would have taken such a long time. I felt instead of doing all of that, to do very little, let me just go back. And then, because it was so new here in this country, this is how we actually started off with Yoga Kshema, conducting in the beginning first with the chronically ill patients and their caregivers, and first especially with stroke, people who had stroke and their caregivers, and then we expanded it to heterogeneous groups of people with other chronic illnesses. And then we went to old age homes, wherein the elderly senior citizens had various different types of illness issues, health issues, and also especially interpersonal relationship issues. Now, when we look at old age homes now, it is a very different scenario and picture. People willingly many a times go and settle there because it is of their own choice. But at that time, 15 years back, was a very different scenario altogether. Most of the people had interpersonal relationship issues with their family members. And once that was dealt with, the other physical health issues were much, much, much easier to handle. As a physician, you know, it's much easier to handle direct health issues rather than the interpersonal relationship issues.
That is very true, ma'am. Yes.
Time is up. I mean, the discussions will go on, and we would like to have a vote of thanks from Sudha. So,
Thank you, Dr. Usha Vastare. And to be, if I go to the meaning in Kannada, Vistara, and also in Hindi, you can say Vistar. So it is so wide, and you are having such a great knowledge, so widely, and also you are striving so much to develop the groups. And whenever Puneet come home, no, he will be telling that when are you going to start the support group, this thing. And since he is not having time for it, he will be keep asking me. So this time we are going to begin with our medical counseling students. And also, and you have given so much of this thing, insight towards how to start and how to be proactive towards, and I can understand how much you are eager to see people to bring, start these therapeutic groups, supportive groups. And I want even Sureka, she was raising one more new kind of this thing group. That is also very much needed, because in nowadays everybody is becoming very lonely, and that is very much needed now. So there is so much need in different fields, and your motivations, and also the way you are bringing up your group to serve these people, it's really nice to see. And also such a good insight towards the how we have to proceed and what kind of things we are supposed to do. Especially in India, it's very much needed now. We are copying the Western things, which is not needed, and we are going in. I mean, we are taking the trouble by ourselves. So somewhere we have to put a stop, and that can be happen only with the education. I mean, with the groups like family people, and each and everybody has to contribute towards this. Very much needed. Thank you, Madam Usha Vastare.
Sure. Thank
Great
you.
question, and I have
Thanks.
listened to you in so many other these things also. You are a great personality.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you
you
so
all.
much, ma'am. Thank you.